Hey everyone, welcome to TRS. We are live. She said something about cruise ships.
Yeah.
What's it, real quick, we could probably talk for hours, I'm sure. What's it really like working on a cruise ship? And will you really get banned for life if you happen to sleep with one of the other, you're married now, I get that, but
yeah.
Is that a real big rule?
So I was, Second City was under, we were designated as guest entertainers. So there were entertainers on the ship. Like there was singers that were there and dancers that were on there for the various shows they did. Blue Man Group was on there. They were guest entertainers as well. But we had our identification badge would allow us to like leave the bowels of the ship and be seen, and we could talk to people on board the ship. If you were just cruise staff, somebody who made sure everybody got on the tender boats to go to their excursions and stuff.
Right.
If that was your job and you slept with a passenger, you were off the ship the next day. There's video cameras everywhere. That you were gone. I have seen more than one person removed in my 2 tours of duty on 2 different ships. I've seen more than one person removed.
And all those people were calling mockery.
No.
I'm sorry, I was kidding.
But we couldn't. Well, he's not nice. But the rules on the ship are very real. And if you're part of the staff and representing the cruise line as an employee, and you do that kind of thing, you're gone. You don't work for them anymore.
Oh,
but what about with the performers? Like,
different
could
story.
Use a performer go both ways with the staff or cruiser?
We could. I would say that it was not frowned upon for us to mess around with staff. It was a little frowned upon for us to mess around with passengers because there was no way on the one ship that I was working on. First of all, there was no way it was happening for me. Second of all, there was no way I was bringing anybody to my coffin of a room. So there's barely room enough in it for me. I'm not entertaining a guest. But there were also cameras everywhere. You could be seen doing everything. They can track you everywhere.
That's crazy. You could hook up with staff and you could hook up with other talent. Daywalker.
Yeah. And then my first boat was, I had a room on the 4th floor, but the windows started at 6. So I would go down 2 sets of stairs into the bowels of the ship, and I had this tiny room that had a shower that was also the toilet. Like, so it was the toilet and the drain and the shower. And then in the room proper was my bed and a sink and a tiny desk. But like, it was on the end. I knew people who had that room, but then their shower on the other wall opened into the other person's room. So they would share a toilet shower between 2 of these rooms. And then people would you had to know your neighbor pretty well. You'd open it up like a tunnel and then have more than and have a party. And there was no way you could fit 3 people in there, but they'd somehow get 7 or 8 people in there for a party. But I remember when we would do the safety drills and they're like, if you hear this alarm, run to this station and get on the boat. And I was like, if I hear that alarm, I am locking the door and this is my tomb. I'm going straight to the bottom of the ocean. Because there's no way I'm getting out of here.
Right. So it's not at all like the scene in Titanic where you have massive poor people dance parties in the cargo area.
That's not true. We had a crew bar that was I've not had a drop in like 12 years. I hadn't had any booze in like 12 years.
Impressive.
But back in the day when we were on the ships, those aluminum bottles of Bud Light were $1 at our crew bar. So I would go in and order a 6-pack and then turn around and ask you what you would like to drink. Because that was my first drink, was 6 of these. And then I would go get another one later. And then we would go up to where the real people were enjoying the cruise. And they would see us and go, oh, you're the funny people, have a drink. And we'd be like, oh, thanks. It was awful.
Sorry I had to live that life.
Terrible.
Were they called chuckle fuckers back then?
If that was a real thing, I would love to have known about it. I certainly did not.
I've asked a couple comedians. I'm like, we asked a magician what they're called. Something, a coin purse chaser for the guys who like female magicians, and wand chasers.
Oh my God!
Yes.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I
every
can't
entertainment
imagine
industry
anyone
apparently
chasing
has a
any of
groupie.
us. No, I can't. But if we had a groupie, the only time I ever experienced groupies was when I was doing the Evil Dead musical, because you got horror movie fans and Broadway fans, or like that couple is she's a fan of Broadway and he's a fan of horror, so this thing was for both of them. And we would soak the front few rows with blood every night. We were killing zombies and guns and saws, and it was insane. But we had a cult following, and people would come like see us after, like we'd all come out and have a drink after the show, and they'd come and say, "This is the 17th time I've seen you guys." We're like, "Oh, cool."
It's like, I don't want to see it again. Why are you coming
back? I've done this too much. Why are you here? I'm getting paid to do it.
We just interviewed a Broadway, she's touring actor right now, and she is the understudy for every female part in Clue. Mm-hmm. So at any moment, she could jump on stage and do any female role. And I can't imagine the amount of work you have to put into knowing like one character, let alone that many. It just blows me away.
We had an understudy in Evil Dead. So there's many moving parts of the set that are puppets. And Tim, our understudy Tim, was all the puppets. And then if our lead was out, the second male lead would move up, and then this guy would move in to be him.
Okay.
And then we'd have somebody else backstage be all the puppets. But then if another guy went out, he'd go in for that part. So he knew all his tracks for the puppeteering and all the background singing. Then he knew all the parts for the second lead, and he knew all the parts for the third male part. He knew it all. And I had one role, and I was like, I am not jealous of anything you have to do. It's far too much to remember.
It sounds. Go ahead.
We just kind of glossed over this. You're Evil Dead, or is that a play or a musical? Please be a musical.
Evil Dead the musical. It ran for. We did it. It ran here in Toronto for a little bit. Then in 2006 or 7, we went to Just for Laughs and ran for 6 weeks in Montreal. Then it went to Broadway with an American cast or off Broadway with an American cast and did okay. And then it came back to Toronto, and some of us that were in the original came back to be in this, and then we ran for like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 2 friends that went to Toronto to see it. So
if they came to Toronto to see it, they probably saw me in it back in the day. Yeah.
Just Lin-Manuel running with a chopped off arm,
Oh, the entire show was it sort of sends up other musicals. So our big thing was on the final 20 minutes of the show, we do our time warp, and it is purposely convoluted for comedy purposes, but it murdered us every night. All of us that had to put our rubber deadites masks on, and then we did 20 minutes of singing and dancing, and then a huge fight where all of us, I was the fight captain for that, and we had stunts. I hit a guy face first with the rifle, and he caught me in the it looks like he chainsaws me in the chest, but I would catch it in the armpit every night, and I had huge bruises in my armpit for how hard the chainsaw would hit me, and blood everywhere. And then we'd sing and dance on the blood, and then we'd turn around, and it was all a dream at the end of Evil Dead 2, where he's back working in the store, and then we're all puffing and puffing and covered in blood. But now on top of our gross costumes, we have regular person clothes, and we're like.
So you're saying this took a lot of inspiration from Neil Simon?
Oh, I would say more Rodgers and Hammerstein, but yeah, it was it was insane.
They're way more painful.
And that time warp song was called "Do the Necronomicon." You can find this all over the place.
This is wonderful.
It's a great show. It's actually coming back. They did some rewrites on it because it was very not PC anymore to do that show, but they've done some rewrites on it, and it's coming back to Toronto here in just a few months.
I definitely
come back. We'll drive.
We got to go road trip to that show. It's amazing.
100%. No, that's without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that's especially when you said something like that's going to get in a lot of trouble. You got to see it before it goes away. So that's a rule.
This is Canadian money. I had to get the joke in. Sorry. So you can afford it.
Oh yeah, you can come up here for $5 and have a great weekend.
Wow. I mean, I have actually. I've been up there with very little money and had a great time. It's not a joke. I will say this. I've met a lot of Canadians recently, usually from the West Coast, for a lot of them. But we did interview from the cast of From. Where was she from? Do you remember, Zaz? What part of Canada? It was the East Coast-ish area. I think they were closer to an island.
Oh,
So I
Prince
think they were
Edward
on
Island
water.
or Nova Scotia or something like that.
I think Nova Scotia area. But so I've met people over Canada, and I fall in love with it more each time. So, and every time I go, I swear to God, the meat tastes better. Like your beef was just like the hamburgers are better in Canada. I'm gonna catch crap for that. I'm sure. I'll run for
boy.
office someday. He said Canadian beef was better.
You're going to hear from the Beef Council. I know it. They're going to get a call.
Maybe Canada will send me some free cows. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.